As the days turned into weeks, the team grew more comfortable in their new roles as guardians of the network. Each morning, they gathered at the central gateway, their tasks clear but always evolving. Emily Carter had become adept at sensing disruptions in the energy flow, her instincts sharper than ever. She often walked among the crystalline spires, her hands brushing against their surfaces as if listening to their quiet hums. The beings who had brought them here watched silently, their presence both comforting and mysterious. Rachel Myers spent most of her time decoding messages that traveled through the network. Some came from distant worlds, filled with greetings or requests for help. Others were warnings about unstable connections or threats to the gateways. Her notes grew thicker, her sketches more detailed, as she pieced together the language of the universe itself. Dan Brooks worked tirelessly to maintain the physical structure of the network. He climbed towering spires, repaired damaged conduits, and ensured the energy pathways remained stable. Though he still joked about being an intergalactic handyman, there was a newfound seriousness in his work. He understood now that even the smallest oversight could have catastrophic consequences. Jack Harper found his place in navigating the unpredictable challenges of the alien world. Whether it was calming agitated creatures near the gateways or improvising solutions when technology failed, he proved invaluable. His earlier betrayal on Earth seemed like a distant memory, replaced by trust earned through action and sacrifice. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the plain in soft twilight, the beings summoned the team to the central gateway. They gathered around, sensing that something important was about to happen. One of the beings stepped forward, its glow brighter than usual. "You have adapted well," it said, its voice resonating in their minds. "But your journey is not just about maintaining the network. It is also about understanding why you were chosen." Emily frowned slightly. "We know why. Because we're human, and because we can activate the artifact." The being tilted its head, as if considering her words. "Yes, but there is more. The artifact does not respond to all humans. It responds to those who embody qualities rare even among your kind: curiosity, resilience, and the ability to unite despite differences. These traits are what make humanity capable of great responsibility." Rachel looked down at her notebook, her thoughts swirling. "So, we're proof that humanity can rise above its flaws." "In part," the being replied. "But your role is also to inspire others, to show that cooperation and wisdom can overcome fear and greed. The artifact was built by us, but only your species could awaken its true potential." The weight of the statement settled over the group. They realized then that their mission wasn't just about guarding the network, it was about representing humanity on a cosmic stage. Every decision they made, every challenge they faced, would reflect on their entire species. As the being finished speaking, the central gateway flared to life, projecting images of countless worlds connected by the network. Some were thriving, their civilizations advanced and peaceful. Others struggled, their people divided or threatened by external forces. The team understood that their work would shape these worlds, and countless others yet to be discovered. "We won't let you down," Emily said firmly, her voice steady with resolve. "This is our purpose now." The being nodded, its expression unreadable but approving. "Then go forth, guardians. The universe awaits." That night, as they stood beneath the alien stars, the team felt a profound sense of unity, not just with each other, but with the vastness around them. They had started as ordinary people, driven by curiosity and ambition. Now, they were something more. Through the ancient alien's creation, humanity had been given a chance to prove itself, to step beyond its limitations and embrace a greater destiny. And as they gazed up at unfamiliar constellations, Emily whispered softly, "We're ready." The beings led the team through the glowing forest, their movements graceful and deliberate. The air was filled with a soft hum, like a melody that resonated deep within their chests. Emily Carter walked alongside Rachel Meyer, her mind racing with questions, but also a growing sense of wonder. Every step revealed something new, flowers that pulsed with light, streams of water that shimmered like liquid diamonds, and creatures that seemed to exist somewhere between solid and ethereal. "This place, it's incredible," Rachel whispered, her notebook already filling with sketches of the alien flora and fauna. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Dan Brooks trailed behind, his usual skepticism softened by the sheer beauty of their surroundings. "Yeah, but what are we supposed to do here? Guard this network? How does that even work?" One of the beings turned slightly, its luminous eyes locking onto Dan's. Though it didn't speak aloud, its voice echoed in their minds. "The network connects countless worlds, each one a thread in the fabric of existence. Your role is to ensure these connections remain stable and safe." "Safe from what?" Jack Harper asked, his tone cautious. After everything they had been through, he wasn't ready to trust anything completely. "From those who would misuse them," the being replied. "There are forces in the universe that seek power without understanding. To wield the network responsibly requires wisdom and unity." Emily nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of the responsibility. She glanced at her teammates, seeing determination on their faces despite the uncertainty. They had come this far together, and now they were being asked to take the next step, not just for themselves, but for others. As they reached the edge of the forest, the landscape opened up into a vast plain, dotted with structures unlike anything they had ever seen. Towering spires made of crystalline material stretched toward the sky, their surfaces shifting and changing as if alive. At the center of the plain stood a massive gateway, similar to the one they had used to arrive, but far larger and more intricate. "This is the heart of the network," the being explained. "From here, you will monitor and maintain the connections between worlds. Each of you has a unique role to play." "How do we know what to do?" Rachel asked, her voice tinged with both excitement and nervousness. "You already carry the knowledge within you," the being said. "The artifact chose you because it recognized your potential. Trust yourselves and each other." The team exchanged glances, silently acknowledging the truth in the being's words. Back on Earth, they had worked together to unlock the artifact's secrets. Despite their differences, and even moments of betrayal, they had found a way to rise above fear and doubt. That same bond would guide them here. Over the next few days, the beings taught them how to interact with the network. Emily discovered she could feel the energy flowing through the gateways, sensing disturbances or imbalances before they became problems. Rachel's knack for languages translated perfectly to decoding messages sent across the network, while Dan's practical skills helped him repair and stabilize damaged connections. Even Jack found his place, using his resourcefulness to adapt to challenges none of them could have predicted. But the most surprising change came from within themselves. As they worked together, they began to notice subtle shifts, not just in their abilities, but in their perspectives. The fear and mistrust that had once divided them melted away, replaced by a shared purpose and deeper understanding of one another. One evening, as they gathered near the central gateway, Emily looked out at the horizon. Twin suns painted the sky in hues of gold and violet, casting long shadows across the plain. "Do you think anyone back home knows what happened to us?" she asked quietly. "Maybe," Rachel replied. "But I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be." Jack nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We didn't just find the artifact. It found us, for a reason." Dan smiled faintly. "Guess we're not just humans anymore. We're something more." As they stood together under the alien sky, the team felt a profound sense of belonging. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were ready. For the first time, they truly understood the artifact's purpose, and their own. They weren't just explorers or survivors. They were guardians, entrusted with a legacy far greater than themselves, and they wouldn't let it down. The team stepped through the portal one by one, their hearts pounding as they crossed into the unknown. The swirling vortex of light and energy enveloped them, pulling them forward with a force that felt both gentle and unstoppable. For a moment, Everything was chaos. Colors blurred together, sounds echoed like distant whispers, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to vanish entirely. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the sensation ended. Emily Carter was the first to emerge on the other side, blinking against the bright light of an alien sun. She stumbled forward, her boots sinking into soft, moss-like ground that glowed faintly with a greenish hue. Behind her, Rachel Meyer and Dan Brooks appeared, followed closely by Jack Harper. They stood in stunned silence, taking in the breathtaking landscape around them. They were no longer in the Arizona desert, or even on Earth. Towering crystalline trees stretched toward the sky, their translucent branches shimmering in the sunlight. Strange creatures flitted between the trees, their forms fluid and ever-changing. In the distance, a vast ocean of liquid silver sparkled under the twin suns hanging low in the horizon. It was beautiful and completely alien. This can't be real," Dan whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's real," Emily said softly, her eyes scanning the horizon. "We did it. We opened the portal." Rachel clutched her notebook tightly, trying to steady her breathing. "But where are we? And why did the artifact bring us here?" Before anyone could answer, movement caught their attention. From the edge of the forest, figures emerged. Tall, luminous beings who resembled the holograms they had seen back on Earth. Their elongated limbs and glowing eyes made them seem almost otherworldly, yet there was a calmness about them, a sense of purpose. One of the beings stepped forward, raising a hand in what seemed like a gesture of peace. Though they didn't speak aloud, their voices resonated clearly in the teens' minds. "You have come far," the voice said, deep and melodic. "We have waited long for your arrival." Emily took a cautious step forward. "Who are you? Why did you bring us here?" "We are the creators of the artifact," the being replied. "It was designed not as a weapon or a tool, but as a bridge, a test for those who seek to understand the universe beyond themselves." "A test?" Jack asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "For what?" "To see if your kind is ready," another being added, its presence warm and reassuring. "Your species has shown great potential, but also great danger. The artifact was meant to guide you, to show you what lies beyond fear and greed." Rachel frowned, glancing at the others. "So we passed. That's why we're here." "You have taken the first step," the being confirmed. "But the journey does not end here. You must now choose whether to continue, not just for yourselves, but for all who will follow." The weight of the words settled over the group. They had been brought here for a reason, chosen by these ancient beings to carry their legacy forward. But the choice wasn't easy. Staying meant leaving Earth behind, stepping fully into the unknown. Returning meant facing the mercenaries and risking the artifact falling into the wrong hands. Emily looked at her teammates, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes. Finally, she turned back to the beings. "What happens if we stay?" "You will become guardians of the network," the being explained. "Protectors of the bridges that connect worlds. Your actions will shape the future of countless civilizations." "And if we go back?" Dan asked. "Then you leave the artifact's fate in the hands of others," the being replied simply, a choice fraught with uncertainty. The team exchanged glances, silently weighing their options. After a long pause, Emily spoke. "We'll stay. We've come too far to turn back now." The beings nodded, their expressions unreadable but approving. "Then welcome, travelers. Your journey begins anew." As the team followed the beings deeper into the alien world, they couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Whatever lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain. Their lives would never be the same again. The team found shelter in an old mining facility, several miles from the excavation site. It was dusty and abandoned, but it offered protection from the harsh desert sun and the mercenaries who now controlled their discovery. Dr. Emily Carter sat on a wooden crate, staring at her hands. She couldn't stop thinking about Aaron's sacrifice or Jack's betrayal. The weight of everything that had happened pressed down on her, making it hard to breathe. Rachel Meyer paced back and forth, her notebook clutched tightly in her hands. "We can't just sit here," she said, her voice trembling with frustration. "Aaron gave us a chance. We have to do something." Dan Brooks leaned against a rusted wall, his arms crossed. "Like what?" "Go back there. Those guys are armed, and they've already taken over the artifact. We're outnumbered and outmatched. We can't give up," Emily said firmly, finally looking up. Her voice was steady, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. "Aaron didn't risk his life, so we could run away. That artifact isn't just theirs. It belongs to all of us, to humanity." Jack Harper sat apart from the group, his head bowed. He hadn't spoken much since their escape, guilt eating away at him. When he finally looked up, his face was pale. "I didn't think it would go this far," he admitted quietly. "I thought they'd take control and study it properly. I didn't know they'd destroy everything." "They still might," Dan snapped, "if we don't stop them." Emily stood, her resolve hardening. "Then we find a way to stop them, together." The group spent the next few hours planning. Rachel pored over her notes, searching for any clues about the artifact's weaknesses or how to disable it temporarily. Dan scavenged tools and supplies from the abandoned mine, while Emily tried to piece together a strategy. Even Jack joined in, using his knowledge of Victor Kane's operations to anticipate their moves. By nightfall, they had a plan. It wasn't perfect, but it was all they had. Under cover of darkness, they returned to the excavation site, moving cautiously through the shadows. The mercenaries were camped near the entrance, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The team split up, each member taking on a specific task. Emily and Rachel crept toward the hidden chamber, guided by Rachel's translations of the alien symbols. They knew the artifact's power could be used against the mercenaries if activated correctly, but getting close enough to trigger it would be dangerous. Meanwhile, Dan and Jack worked to create distractions, setting off small explosions made from leftover mining equipment to draw the guards away. As chaos erupted above ground, Emily and Rachel slipped into the chamber unnoticed. The central pillar still hummed faintly, its surface glowing with a soft light. Rachel quickly began inputting commands based on her notes, her fingers trembling as she pressed the alien symbols. Emily kept watch, her heart pounding as she listened for any sign of approaching footsteps. "It's working," Rachel whispered, her voice filled with both relief and fear. "But we need more time." Suddenly, the sound of boots echoed outside the chamber. Jack appeared in the doorway, breathless. "They're coming. You need to hurry." Rachel worked faster, her hands moving instinctively. The artifact responded, its glow intensifying as energy surged through the room. Just as the mercenaries burst in, weapons drawn, the portal flared to life, a swirling vortex of light and color that filled the chamber. "Get back," Emily shouted, pulling Rachel away from the console. The mercenaries froze, their weapons useless against the overwhelming power of the artifact. One by one, they retreated, shielding their eyes from the blinding light. When the portal stabilized, the team stood together, staring at the gateway before them. It was their only way forward, and their only chance to reclaim what had been lost. Taking a deep breath, Emily stepped toward the portal, the others following close behind. Whatever lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain. The fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. Tensions within the team began to rise as the days passed. The artifact's influence was undeniable, and while some members embraced it, others grew wary of its power. Jack Harper, in particular, struggled with doubt. He had always been practical, preferring clear answers over mysteries. But the artifact defied explanation, and the more time he spent around it, the more uneasy he became. One evening, after another long day of studying the alien symbols, Jack made a decision. He slipped away from the camp under the cover of darkness, his mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with forces far beyond their control. What if the artifact wasn't meant to be activated? What if opening the portal would bring disaster instead of discovery? Jack drove his truck several miles away from the site before making a call on a satellite phone. On the other end was a private military contractor named Victor Kane, someone Jack had worked with in the past. "I found something," Jack said, his voice low. "Something big. It's ancient, alien, and incredibly powerful." Victor's interest was immediate. "How powerful are we talking?" "Powerful enough to change everything," Jack replied. "But my team, they're moving too slow. They're cautious, maybe too cautious. If someone doesn't step in, this thing might stay buried forever." Victor promised to send a team to secure the artifact, assuring Jack that they would handle things professionally. But Jack didn't know what professional meant to men like Victor. All he cared about was protecting the artifact and himself from whatever dangers might come. The next morning, chaos erupted at the camp. Armed mercenaries arrived in black trucks, surrounding the excavation site. Emily Carter and the others were caught off guard, their tools and equipment confiscated. Rachel Meyer tried to reason with the intruders, but they ignored her protests, pushing the team aside as they moved toward the artifact. Emily confronted Jack, her face a mix of anger and betrayal. "You did this. You brought them here. I didn't have a choice." Jack shot back, though guilt flickered in his eyes. "We don't know what we're dealing with. Someone needs to take control." Aaron Klein stepped forward, his voice firm. "This isn't control. It's theft. You're putting everyone in danger." The argument was cut short when Victor Kane appeared, flanked by his men. "Enough talk," he said coldly. "We're here to secure the site. Anyone who resists will be dealt with." The team had no choice but to retreat, watching helplessly as the mercenaries entered the hidden chamber. Inside, they began tampering with the consoles, ignoring the warnings etched into the alien symbols. The central pillar hummed ominously, its glow intensifying. Realizing the danger, Aaron stayed behind, risking his life to stop them. He used his knowledge of the artifact to trigger a failsafe, sealing off the entrance to the chamber. As the doors slammed shut, trapping the mercenaries inside, Aaron turned to the others. "Go," he shouted. "I'll hold them off." The team fled into the desert, their hearts heavy with loss. Behind them, the artifact let out a final deafening hum before falling silent. Aaron's sacrifice had bought them time, but at a great cost. As they regrouped miles away, Emily felt the weight of failure pressing down on her. They had lost the artifact, their friend, and their trust in one another. But even in their darkest moment, a spark of determination remained. The artifact wasn't gone. It was waiting. And so were they. Over the next few weeks, the team grew more cautious but also more determined. Every day brought new insights into the artifact's workings, but it also brought strange changes that none of them could fully explain. At first, it was small things. Rachel Meyer started having vivid dreams filled with whispers and flashes of light. She woke up each morning feeling restless, as though the artifact were calling to her in her sleep. Emily Carter noticed something different too. Her thoughts seemed sharper, her instincts stronger. She found herself solving problems faster, making connections she wouldn't have seen before. At first, she thought it was just the excitement of the discovery pushing her harder. But deep down, she wondered if the artifact was affecting her somehow. Dan Brooks was the first to voice his concerns. "Something's not right," he said one evening as they sat around the campfire. "I've been hearing things, sounds when no one's talking. And sometimes, I swear I see shadows moving where there shouldn't be any." Jack Harper laughed nervously. "You're probably just tired. We've all been working too hard." But Emily knew Dan wasn't imagining things. She had felt it too. The sense that they weren't alone. The artifact seemed alive in a way that defied logic, its presence growing stronger with each passing day. Rachel shared her own experience the next morning. "The voices in my dreams, they're telling me to complete the cycle. I don't know what it means, but it feels important." Aaron Klein frowned. "Complete the cycle? That sounds like part of the instructions on the consoles. Maybe the artifact is trying to guide us. Or maybe it's manipulating us, Dan countered. We don't know what this thing really wants. Despite their unease, the team pressed on. They couldn't ignore the progress they were making. Rachel continued translating the alien symbols, uncovering more details about how the artifact worked. Erin used her notes to refine the energy alignment process, bringing them closer to activating the portal safely. One night, as Emily stood alone in the hidden chamber, she felt an overwhelming urge to touch the central pillar again. She hesitated, remembering the last time she had activated the artifact, but something inside her pushed her forward. Slowly, she placed her hand on the glowing surface. Instantly, the room lit up, and a wave of warmth spread through her body. Images flooded her mind. Visions of distant stars, strange planets, and towering alien figures watching silently. She heard their voices, soft and melodic, speaking words she couldn't understand but somehow felt in her heart. When the vision faded, Emily stumbled back, her breath coming in short gasps. The others rushed into the chamber, alarmed by the sudden surge of light. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked, gripping her arm. "I saw something," Emily whispered. "They showed me places, worlds beyond ours. It's like they're waiting for us." Jack crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. "Waiting for what? What do they want from us?" "I don't think they want anything," Emily replied. "I think they're showing us what's possible, if we're brave enough to take the next step." The team fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. They had always known the artifact was special, but now they began to realize just how much bigger its purpose might be. It wasn't just a machine or a tool. It was a bridge, connecting them to something far greater than themselves. As they left the chamber that night, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were being prepared for something monumental. The artifact wasn't just testing them, it was changing them, shaping them into the kind of people who could handle its power. Whatever lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain. The journey was only beginning. The team spent the next several days exploring the hidden chamber, trying to understand how the consoles worked. Each day brought new discoveries, but also new challenges. Physicist Aaron Klein joined them in the chamber, his sharp mind quickly grasping the basics of the alien technology. He explained that the consoles seemed to manipulate energy fields, fields powerful enough to bend space and time. "This isn't just a machine," Aaron said one afternoon, pointing to the central pillar. "It's a gateway, a portal. If we can figure out how to activate it, we might be able to open a passage to another place, or even another dimension." Emily Carter listened carefully, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. The thought of traveling across dimensions was thrilling, but it was also terrifying. What if they opened something they couldn't close? What if they unleashed forces they didn't understand? Rachel Meyer focused on deciphering the symbols on the consoles, her notebook filling up with notes and sketches. She worked tirelessly, translating piece by piece. "Some of these symbols are instructions," she explained. "They're telling us how to align the energy fields. But there's a warning here too, a caution about instability." "Instability?" Dan Brooks asked, frowning. "What does that mean?" "It could mean anything," Rachel admitted. "Maybe the portal isn't stable, or maybe activating it could cause damage. We need to be careful." Despite the risks, the team decided to try a small test. Using Rachel's translations, Aaron programmed one of the consoles to create a minor energy field. The others stood back, watching nervously as the central pillar began to glow. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a faint ripple appeared in the air near the pillar, a shimmer like heat rising off asphalt. "What is that?" Jack Harper asked, his voice tense. "I think it's working," Aaron said, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's creating a rift." The ripple grew larger, distorting the light around it. Objects near the rift began to flicker and blur, as though they were being pulled into another reality. Emily reached out instinctively, grabbing Rachel's arm to pull her back. "We need to shut it down," she shouted. Aaron hesitated, torn between curiosity and caution. Finally, he pressed a series of symbols on the console, and the rift collapsed, leaving the chamber silent once more. The team let out a collective breath, their hearts racing. "That was intense," Dan said, breaking the silence. "Do you think it's safe to try again?" "We can't rush this," Emily insisted. "We barely understand what we're doing. One wrong move, and we could tear a hole in reality." Rachel nodded in agreement. "We need to take it step by step. Study the symbols more carefully. Make sure we know exactly what we're doing before we try anything else." But the incident left everyone shaken. That night, as they sat around the campfire, the conversation turned to the artifact's purpose. "Why would aliens build something like this?" Jack asked, staring into the flames. "And why make it so humans can use it?" "Maybe they wanted someone to find it," Emily suggested. "Someone who could carry on their work." "Or maybe it's a test," Aaron added, "to see if we're smart enough or responsible enough to handle this kind of power." The idea lingered in the air, unsettling but impossible to ignore. The artifact wasn't just a tool, it was a challenge, and the team knew they had to rise to meet it. As they drifted off to sleep that night, each of them wrestled with the same question. Were they ready for what came next? The next morning, the team gathered around the artifact again, their minds buzzing with questions. They had spent hours discussing the strange events of the previous night, but no one could agree on what it all meant. Dr. Emily Carter stood closest to the structure, her eyes fixed on its glowing surface. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important, something right in front of them. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Rachel Meyer noticed something new. A section of the artifact's wall seemed different from the rest. The patterns there were smoother, almost like a door or a panel. She pointed it out to the group. "Look at this," she said, brushing away a thin layer of sand. Beneath her fingers, the surface revealed a recessed area shaped like a handprint. "It looks like some kind of scanner," Dan Brooks muttered, crouching beside her. "Maybe it's how you activate it." Jack Harper stepped forward, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Let me try." He placed his palm against the scanner, pressing firmly. But nothing happened. The artifact remained silent, its surface cold and unresponsive. Rachel frowned. Maybe it needs something specific, like a certain kind of energy. Emily stared at the handprint, her mind racing. Without thinking, she reached out and placed her own hand on the scanner. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the artifact came alive with a deafening hum. The ground beneath their feet vibrated, and the glowing patterns on the walls flared brightly. Emily gasped, pulling her hand back instinctively, but the process had already begun. The vibration grew stronger, shaking the entire structure. The team stumbled back, shielding their eyes as a blinding light erupted from the artifact. When the light finally dimmed, they saw that part of the wall had slid open, revealing the hidden chamber beyond. Inside, the air felt cooler, and the faint glow of consoles lined the walls. "What just happened?" Jack asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "I don't know," Emily admitted, staring into the chamber. "But it responded to me, to my touch." Dan moved closer, examining the opening. "This doesn't make sense. Why would it only work for humans?" Rachel shook her head. "Maybe it's not about being human. Maybe it's about compatibility. Something in our biology, or maybe even our DNA, matches whatever this thing is looking for." The team cautiously entered the chamber, their flashlights cutting through the dim light. The consoles inside were sleek and unfamiliar, covered in more of the alien symbols they had seen earlier. Each console seemed connected to a central pillar in the middle of the room, which pulsed faintly with energy. "This must be the control room," Emily said, her voice filled with wonder. "This is how they operated it." "But operated what exactly?" Dan asked, running his fingers over one of the consoles. "We still don't know what this thing does." Rachel knelt by the central pillar, studying the symbols carved into its surface. "I think these are instructions. If I can decipher them, maybe we can figure out how to use it." As the others worked, Emily lingered near the entrance, her thoughts swirling. The artifact had responded to her, but why? Was it random, or was there something special about her, or about humanity itself? She glanced back at the glowing consoles, feeling both excitement and unease. Jack broke the silence. "So, what now? Do we try to turn it on?" Emily hesitated. "We need to be careful. We don't know what activating it will do. It could be dangerous." "But we also can't just leave it here," Rachel argued. "If this thing has the power to communicate across space, or even travel, it might be the most important discovery in human history." The team fell silent, weighing the risks. Whatever the artifact was, it was clear that only humans could interact with it. That fact alone made them responsible for what came next. As they stood in the glowing chamber, surrounded by alien technology, they knew one thing for certain. Their lives, and perhaps the fate of the world, would never be the same. The next morning, the team gathered around a makeshift table in their camp, still reeling from the events of the previous night. The holographic images of the towering aliens lingered in their minds, haunting and unforgettable. Dr. Emily Carter stared at her coffee cup, unable to shake the feeling that they were being watched, not by the aliens themselves, but by something greater, something ancient and unknowable. Linguist Rachel Meyer was already hard at work, poring over her notes and sketches of the symbols etched into the artifact. Her brow furrowed as she traced the lines with her pencil, trying to make sense of the patterns. "These aren't just random carvings," she said finally, looking up at the group. "They're part of a language, a really advanced one. Some of these symbols repeat in sequences, like sentences or instructions." Emily leaned forward, intrigued. "Instructions for what?" Rachel hesitated. "That's the thing. I'm not sure yet. But there's a lot here about alignment, celestial bodies, orbits, that kind of thing. It's like they're describing how to use this thing." Geologist Dan Brooks crossed his arms, skeptical as always. "You think this thing is some kind of cosmic machine? A tool for space travel or communication?" "It's possible," Rachel replied. "But we need more time to figure it out. This isn't going to be easy." As the day wore on, the team returned to the excavation site, determined to uncover more clues. Pilot Jack Harper arrived just as they were setting up equipment. He had been sent to deliver supplies, but his usual laid-back demeanor shifted the moment he saw the artifact. "What is that?" he asked, his voice tinged with awe as he approached the structure. "You missed quite a show last night," Emily said dryly. She gave him a quick rundown of the holograms and the strange hum that had filled the air. Jack listened intently, his skepticism slowly giving way to curiosity. Later that afternoon, Rachel made a breakthrough. She noticed that certain symbols on the artifact corresponded to specific constellations visible in the night sky. Using her notes, she mapped out the positions of stars and planets, realizing they aligned perfectly with an upcoming celestial event. "There's going to be a planetary alignment tonight," she announced excitedly. "It might trigger something in the artifact." The team decided to stay late, setting up cameras and sensors to monitor the structure. As dusk fell, the desert grew eerily quiet, the only sounds coming from the wind rustling through the sand. They huddled together, watching and waiting. When the first stars appeared, Emily felt a strange tension in the air, as though the artifact itself was holding its breath. Then, just after midnight, it happened. The artifact began to glow, its surface lighting up with intricate patterns that seemed to dance across the stone. The hum returned, louder this time, resonating deep in their chests. Suddenly, the holograms reappeared, more vivid than before. The towering alien figures stood silently, their luminous eyes scanning the group as if trying to communicate without words. For several long moments, no one moved. Then one of the figures raised a hand, pointing toward the sky. Above them, the stars seemed to shift, forming new constellations that hadn't existed moments earlier. The display lasted only a few seconds before fading away, leaving the team stunned. Jack broke the silence first. "Okay, so, what does that mean? Are they trying to tell us something?" Rachel shook her head, her expression thoughtful. "I think they're showing us what this thing can do. But why? And why now?" Emily stepped closer to the artifact, running her fingers lightly over its surface. "Maybe they're testing us," she suggested, "seeing if we're ready." "Ready for what?" Dan asked, frowning. No one had an answer. But as they packed up their gear and headed back to camp, one thing was clear. The artifact wasn't just a relic of the past. It was alive, waiting, and somehow connected to humanity in ways they couldn't yet understand. In the heart of the Arizona desert, where the sun blazed down on endless stretches of sand and rock, a team of scientists worked tirelessly. They had been digging for weeks, uncovering layer after layer of earth, chasing whispers of something extraordinary hidden beneath. Dr. Emily Carter stood at the edge of the excavation site, her hat shading her face from the relentless heat. She wiped sweat from her brow and glanced at the others. Geologist Daniel Dan Brooks was crouched nearby, examining fragments of strange, crystalline material that seemed to shimmer even in the shadows. The discovery had come unexpectedly. What started as a routine archaeological survey turned into something far more intriguing when their ground-penetrating radar picked up an anomaly deep below the surface. At first, they thought it might be a natural formation, a cave or perhaps a mineral deposit. But as they dug deeper, it became clear this was no ordinary find. Beneath the sand lay a massive structure, its smooth surface covered in intricate patterns that glowed faintly under the sunlight. Emily knelt beside Dan, who held one of the crystal fragments in his gloved hand. "What do you think?" she asked, her voice tinged with both excitement and disbelief. "I don't know," Dan admitted, turning the fragment over carefully. "It's not like anything I've seen before. These patterns, they almost look deliberate." Emily nodded. Deliberate was the right word. The carvings etched into the structure's surface weren't random. They formed complex designs that spiraled and intertwined, creating shapes that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Some parts of the structure were worn down by time, but the craftsmanship was undeniable. Whoever, or whatever, had built this had done so with precision and care. As the day wore on, the team grew quieter, their usual chatter replaced by awe and unease. The sheer scale of the artifact was overwhelming. It stretched far beyond what they could excavate in a single season, disappearing into the earth like some ancient leviathan waiting to be awakened. Linguist Rachel Meyer joined them, her notebook filled with sketches and notes about the symbols carved into the walls. "I've never seen anything like this," she said softly. "Some of these markings resemble constellations, but others, they're completely alien." Night fell quickly in the desert, bringing with it a sharp drop in temperature. The team set up floodlights around the site, casting long shadows across the sand. Emily stayed late, unable to tear herself away from the mystery before her. As she traced her fingers lightly over the glowing patterns, she felt a strange warmth emanating from the stone. It wasn't just the residual heat of the sun. It was something else, something alive. Then it happened. Without warning, the artifact began to hum. A low vibration rippled through the air, growing louder and more intense with each passing second. Lights flickered along the edges of the structure, pulsing in rhythm with the sound. Emily stumbled back, her heart racing. Around her, the rest of the team froze, staring in stunned silence. The humming reached a crescendo, and suddenly, beams of light shot out from the artifact, forming holographic images in the air. Towering figures appeared, aliens with elongated limbs and luminous eyes. Their presence was overwhelming, yet strangely peaceful. For a moment, it felt as though they were watching, studying. Then, just as quickly as they had appeared, the figures vanished, leaving the team alone in the darkness. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Dan broke the silence. "What was that?" Emily shook her head, still trying to process what she had witnessed. "I don't know," she said quietly. "But whatever it is, we've only scratched the surface."